Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. This is Tariq. Today we will start a new chapter, consumer behavior. In this section we will learn about the different microeconomic principles like utility, like law of diminishing marginal utility, law of equi-marginal utility, budget line, indifference curves, and consumer equilibrium, that how using these microeconomic principles consumer can get maximum satisfaction with the available limited money in hands without wasting this money. So using these principles, how consumer can maximize his utility, can maximize his satisfaction. We will learn all about this in this section. We are starting from the very first topic. What is consumer behavior? Consumer behavior means the selection of the goods and services, then purchase of the goods and services, and finally the consumption of those goods and services to satisfy human wants, to fulfill human needs. This is called consumer behavior. Further, microeconomic educate us that being a consumer, when you want to do some shopping, when you want to purchase goods and services, so what to do? So economic educate us about the modern economic principles, that when one individual is doing shopping, so he should not purchase the goods and services blindly from the market. Individual must follow the following modern economic principles rules. What are the rules? Like, first, conduct market research, means check the market, check 3 to 4 different sellers for the commodity. Shortlist the different commodities. Compare the utilities of the commodities, that which commodity you like more and that will provide you more satisfaction. Consider the prices of the goods and services. Consider the purchasing power. So, microeconomic educate us that when one individual is doing shopping, so he must follow these rules as I told you, like check 3 to 4 sellers, shortlist the commodities, compare the utilities of the commodities, consider the prices of the commodities, and consider the money in hands. So, while doing shopping, economics educate us that we have to follow these rules and then purchase. Do not purchase blindly. We are switching toward the concept of utility. What is utility? Utility means satisfaction, fulfillment of needs. When a consumer consume any commodity and that commodity fulfill consumer need, this fulfillment of consumer need is called utility of the commodity. Like, for example, being a student, why a student is keeping notebook and ballpoint? These are 2 commodities. Why student use notebook and ballpoint? Because student need book and ballpoint to record the lecture. So it's mean book and ballpoint fulfill the student's need. Book and ballpoint satisfy the students when students record the lecture. Students are keeping the notes and then read these notes at home and understand the things. So it's mean notebook and ballpoint are 2 commodities, and these 2 commodities satisfy students. fulfill the need of the students. What is the need? To record the lecture. So the ability or the power of the goods and services to fulfill the need of the consumer. That fulfillment of need is called utility or satisfaction of the commodity. Like for example, one individual is thirsty, tushna. So he need water. Water is the commodity. Why? Because this water has the power to quench his thirst. Water has the power to satisfy him. When consumer will drink the glass of water, he will satisfy. So water provide him satisfaction. This satisfaction is called utility. So that is why we define that the ability or the power of any commodity to satisfy human wants, to satisfy human need, to fulfill human needs. Why we are using fan in the classroom? Because this fan will keep the temperature of the classroom normal. It's mean we need fan in the classroom. This fan has the utility for us. The fan provides satisfaction to the consumers to keep the temperature of the classroom normal. So the power of the commodity to satisfy, to fulfill human need, that fulfillment of need is called utility or satisfaction. Or for example, why in the winter season the Kabul people use heavy jackets? Because this jacket will provide the body from the cool. It's mean jacket fulfill your need. Jacket provide you satisfaction. When you are jacketless, mean you does not wear out the jacket, so you are feeling cool. You are not feeling comfortable. But when you wear out the heavy jacket, you protect your body from the cool, and now you are feeling well. It's mean this jacket provide you satisfaction. If we are doing journey from one city, Kabul, to Jalalabad, so why we are using car? Because the car provide us satisfaction. The car fulfill our need. In the car we are comfortable. We are easily move from one city to the other. It's mean car is the commodity, and this car fulfill our need, provide us satisfaction. So I am again repeating, the power or the ability of the commodity to satisfy human wants. That is called utility of the commodities. Let me read the theory. The power, the ability of the commodity to satisfy consumer want is called utility. When consumer consume any commodity, like for example water, notebook, ballpoint, air condition, fan, whiteboard, etc., and that commodity fulfill the consumer need, that fulfillment of need is called utility. That satisfaction that commodity provide to the consumer, that is called utility of the commodity. Let me put one example. Thirsty person will drink water to quench his thirst, because the water has the power to quench the thirst of the thirsty person. Department use fan in the classrooms, because the fan will keep the temperature normal in the classroom. Our need is what? To keep the temperature normal, and fan fulfill this need. So fan has the utility for the students, and that is why we call that in the power of the commodity to satisfy your want. That is called utility. In Kabul, people use jackets in winter. Why? Because the jacket protect the body from the cool and satisfy consumer need. So the power, the ability of the commodity to satisfy consumer, to fulfill the needs of the consumer, that is called utility of the commodity. What is total utility? Total utility means total satisfaction from the commodity consumed. So total utility, the utility of the last unit of the commodity consumed is called total utility, and total utility is increasing at decreasing rate. What is marginal utility? Marginal mean incremental, izafi. So marginal mean addition to the total utility by consuming one more unit of the same commodity, or change in total utility because of change in commodity. let me elaborate that when one individual is consuming a commodity, so individual will consume 3 to 4, 5, 6 units of the same commodity. So when he will start from the very first unit will provide one utility, second will provide another utility, third will provide another. So it's mean every next unit of the same commodity is increasing his utility, and this increase in utility is called marginal utility or additional utility of the additional unit. So I am again repeating, addition to the total utility by consuming one more unit of the same commodity. Mathematical notation of the marginal utility of the additional commodity is this: marginal utility MU stands for marginal utility, is change in total utility because of change in commodity. Mathematically we can write delta is a Greek letter, represent change. TU stands for total utility, change in total utility because of change in X, where X represent the change in commodity. So addition to the total utility by consuming one more unit means when individual is consuming the commodity, so when as he increase the commodity, utility will also increase. The increase in utility because of the next unit, that is called marginal utility. Let me take you to the data table to make it more clear and more easy. Suppose this is one data table that represent the number of units consumed of the commodity, total utility of the units consumed, and marginal utilities. So commodity consumed units, the first unit, suppose that commodity is apple. Suppose consumer is consuming apple. So this is one commodity. Now first apple mean when consumer eat the first apple, so the total utility that he get from eating the apple is 8 utils. This 8 represents satisfaction of the individual, that individual eat first apple. So total utility, suppose I am saying 8, you can say 10, you can say any number. So commodity consume first apple, that is 1, and utility utils that one get, that is 8, that is total satisfaction of the unit consumed, and marginal is also 8, that consumer eat first apple, so total utility is 8, and marginal utility MU stands for marginal, that is also 8. Now when the consumer is eating second apple, 2 means second apple, so total utility increased from 8 to 14. How much increase? This increased by 6 utils. So marginal utility of the second apple, that is 6. This 6 is called marginal, incremental, izafi, additional utility. So total utility as we define that the satisfaction of the last unit consumed. Suppose here the last unit consumed that second apple and total utility is 14. But when consumer eat the first, the total utility were 8 and marginal were 8. But as he consumed the second, total utility increased from 8 to 14. How much increase? Increased by 6 utils. This 6 util provided by the second apple. 6 utils. Utility 6 provided by the second apple. The first apple provide 8 util. Total is 8 plus 6, 14. So our objective is here, what is marginal? Marginal mean incremental, additional. So as consumer increase the apple from 1 to 2, so total utility increased from 8 to 14, and the second apple provide him additional marginal 6 utils. Let me take you back to the concept. Addition to the total utility by consuming one more unit of the same commodity is called marginal utility. Mathematical notation, as I told you, increase in total utility because of increase in number of units. Where X is any commodity, delta is a Greek letter used for measuring change. What is saturation point? Saturation point is that point at which consumer cannot eat more, consumer cannot absorb more. Consumer's stomach is full. His total utility reached to the maximum, and marginal additional izafi utility of the izafi additional unit is 0. It's mean if still consumer will eat, he cannot eat more, and the next unit will provide no additional utility, no marginal utility. So saturation point, the point at which consumer cannot eat more. His total utility reached to the maximum and marginal utility reached to the 0. Marginal utility 0 means that if he is eating this commodity will not provide him any extra utils. So it means saturation point, the point at which consumer cannot eat more. Total utility is maximum and marginal utility is 0. Again, let me take you to the table. Look, the third apple when consumer will consume, total utility increase from 14 to 18. Now how much increase? Increase just by 4. This 4 is additional marginal utility provided by the additional apple, third apple. So the third apple marginal utility is 4, and the total utility of the consumer when he eat 3 apple, that is 18. Now the fourth apple when consumer is eating, total utility increase from 18 to 20. It means the fourth apple provide him marginal additional 2 utils. And now saturation point, if the consumer is consuming fifth apple, total utility is 20. Fourth apple also provide him 20, and fifth apple also provide him 20 util, nothing change. It means the fifth apple additional utility is 0. Fifth apple does not give him any extra utility. If consumer will consume, consumer is just wasting his money. So saturation point is that point when total utility reach to the maximum and marginal utility reach to the 0, then consumer does not consume more. Consumer cannot eat more. Consumer cannot absorb more. He is just wasting his health and wasting his money. And this is very clear. The fifth apple provide him nothing extra utils. This fourth is also 20, fifth utility is also 20, same. It's mean consumer spent money, but utility does not increase. Incremental additional marginal utility, izafi utility of the fifth apple is 0. So it's mean fifth apple is providing nothing, no utility to the consumer. So this is about the marginal utility. Let me take you back. Saturation point, you clear. This is saturation point. I write in here when the additional marginal utility of the commodity is 0 and when total utility is maximum. So total utility while consuming apple, maximum utility is 20, and at that point marginal utility is 0. Now we are okay, let me take you back in here. When consumer will still consume after the fifth, sixth apple, so total utility will start to fall. After 20, this is not visible, but this is 18. Now consumer is eating more than the requirement. His health is damaged. His utility will start to fall, so marginal utility will get negative. So the sixth apple will provide less utility. Utility will start to fall, and marginal utility will be negative, which is not visible in here. Now we are switching toward another microeconomic principle, which is law of diminishing marginal utility. Law of diminishing means law of decreasing marginal utility. What does this law means? How we can define? according to the law of diminishing marginal utility, every successive means next unit, every next unit of the same commodity that consumer consume continuously will provide him less and less satisfaction. Law of diminishing means decreasing. According to this law, every next commodity will provide less utility than the previous one. So this law is called law of diminishing marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility is a microeconomic principle. According to this principle, every next unit of the commodity will provide less satisfaction than the previous unit of the commodity that already consumer has consumed under the following assumptions. Let me again take you back to the data table to make it more clear. Law of diminishing marginal utility is decreasing as diminishing. How? Look, the first apple provide total utility 8, marginal utility 8. Second apple provide marginal utility 6 and total utility is 14, means total utility increase from 8 to 14, but this is increasing at decreasing rate because the second apple provide 6 utility of the second apple is 6, which is less than the first one. What was the marginal utility of the first one? That was 8. And now what is the marginal utility of the second? That is 6. What is the marginal utility of the third? That is 4. So it's mean every next unit will provide less utility than the first one. I am again repeating, law of diminishing marginal utility. According to the law of diminishing marginal utility, when consumer consume the same nature commodity continuously in a suitable unit, so the next unit will provide less and less utility than the previous one. And as this is very clear that first apple provide marginal utility 8, second apple provide marginal utility 6, third apple provide marginal utility 4, fourth apple provide marginal utility 2 and fifth provide marginal utility 0. So it's mean that every next unit provide less utility than the previous because utility of the second apple is less than the utility of the first. Utility of the third apple is less than the utility of the sixth. Utility of the fourth apple is less than the utility of the third. It's mean every next unit will provide less satisfaction. What is the reason? The reason is this, that when consumer consume the same commodity, same quality, same nature continuously in suitable units, consumer will fed up from that commodity. Consumer will fed up and now every next unit will provide less and less satisfaction. This is human nature, that when you are consuming the same thing again and again, you will fed up from that. Like suppose being a student, when you go back to home and in the lunch, suppose that is some vegetable, so you will eat, but again in the dinner, if again this is vegetable, you will not be able, you will eat, but you will not get that much satisfaction as you get in the very first. And in the breakfast, if again there is a vegetable, so you will not be in a position to eat because you fed up from the vegetable. Consumer fed up and every next unit provide less and less utility. Or for example, suppose consumer is very thirsty. Consumer is very thirsty and he drink a glass of water. So the first glass of water he will enjoy. This will provide him more utility. But now his utility full. His utility is increasing, and if continuously he is using the same water again, so he cannot drink the total glass of water. He will not enjoy the second glass that much as he enjoyed the first one, because when consumer consume the same nature thing continuously and suitable units, so the next unit will provide him less and less satisfaction. This was about the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now assumptions for the law of diminishing marginal utility. Why the utility of the commodity is diminishing increasing. Why? What is the reason? We are putting some assumptions that this law of diminishing marginal utility is working, is true. If these things should not change, if these things also change, then law is failed, law is not working. So law of diminishing marginal utility, that every next unit will provide less utility, but under some conditions, under some assumptions, we are putting those assumptions, we are putting those conditions, that if the following assumptions satisfy, the law of diminishing marginal utility is working. Otherwise, law of diminishing marginal utility is failed. Same nature commodity quality should not change. Means when consumer is consuming the same nature apple, so every next apple will provide less and less utility. This is called law of diminishing marginal utility. But if the nature, the quality of the apple change, so then this is possible that the next apple provide more utility than the first one. Like for example, the first apple that consumer eat, that is not a good quality, but the second apple that consumer eating, that is good quality. So this is possible that second apple provide more utility. Now law failed. What was the law? Law was this, that every next unit will provide less utility. But in here, when consumer change the quality of the product, so the law is failed now, because the first apple were low quality and second apple were high quality. So high quality apple provide more utility. Or for example, if the thirsty person drink a glass of water, but that is not cool, that is hot water, so he will drink, but he will not enjoy, he will not get more utility. But at the same time, if he is taking a cool glass of water in the summer season, so he will enjoy the second glass more, because this is cool, and he will get more satisfaction. Again the law failed. The law was this, that the first unit will provide more utility than the second, but in here the first glass of water were hot, that is why consumer does not enjoy, and the second glass of water is cool, so consumer enjoy more. The second glass of water provide him more satisfaction. So this is first assumption, that nature of the commodity should not change. Or for example, suppose if consumer is consuming a Suzuki car, so this Suzuki car is a low quality car, this will provide him one type of utility. But if he is changing the brand, consumer is consuming BMW, now BMW is a luxury car, this luxury car will provide him more satisfaction. So the second unit provide more satisfaction. Law is failed. Law or this, that every next unit will provide less and less utility. But in here, the first car Suzuki provide less utility, and the second car BMW is a luxury class car, this provide more utility. So it's mean every next utility, when next unit provide more satisfaction, so law fail. The reason is this, why? Because the nature change. Suitable units of the consumption. Consumer has to consume the commodity and suitable units. For example, drinking water suitable unit is glass. When consumer drink a glass, the first glass will provide him more utility. He will over the glass, he will drink the total water and he will enjoy more. But the second glass, when he continuously consume, he cannot drink total, and the second glass will provide him less satisfaction. But if the consumer is using spoon to drink the water, so spoon is not a suitable unit. This is possible that first spoon provide him less utility, and the second provide him more than the first, and third spoon provide him more than the second, and fourth spoon provide utility more than the third, and so on. So law fail. Law or this, that every next unit will provide less utility, but in here every next unit is providing more utility. So law fail. So it's mean again the law is a true. Law of diminishing margin is true if the consumer is consuming suitable units.